I had wrote my daughter a letter. She was 9 at the time. I was apologizing to her for being incarcerated again. Her response back to me was, "It's okay, Mama, I'm just used to it." That hit me so hard because no 9-year-old should be used to their mom being incarcerated.
Welcome, Tiffany, to At the Table, Voices of Restoration. So happy to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Last episode, Carrie and I spoke about Jumpstart and the program and having hope during and after incarceration. And, now you're here, a Jumpstart alumni who's been through so much and came through a lot.
Yes.
And, welcome. We just want to hear more about you and your journey.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here and be able to do this with you guys.
So, Tiffany, you, when you think back to the first time that you were released from prison, before we even get there, let's talk about your story a little bit, if you want to share whatever you want to share. But just so the listeners can hear kind of, where you were and then, where you are now.
So you kind of want me to start from the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay. So my childhood was kind of very dysfunctional. My mother was a drug addict throughout the majority of my childhood. My dad was a biker, so I grew up around a very rough gang, and growing up that way kind of normalized those behaviors for me. So, and it also caused a lot of self-doubt within myself in knowing who I was, because I could see different factions of personalities per se. You would have your really nice, neat, preppy kids, or your really punk, emo, gothic kids, or, then your kids that were kind of growing up like me that were just a really rough bunch. And I wanted to be so many different things, and I always ended up falling into this one category, and it wasn't really where I wanted to be. So it ended up with me not knowing really who I was, but that was all I knew. So whenever I became, an adult, and I started hitting really rough times in my own life, I retracted back to what I knew. And that's what I ended up becoming, was a rough drug addict who found herself in prison on multiple occasions. So that's just a short breakdown of that. I don't want to go into too much detail of it. I know we only got so much time, but That's a little back history.
Wow, Tiffany. So when you think through how you ended up in prison, and you think about the first time you were released, what do you remember the most about that day?
The first time I was released, I was excited. I thought that, because during my first incarceration is when I did pick up my Bible for the first time as an adult and began trying to form a relationship with Christ. And I was excited, thinking that I could do it. But I wasn't under full surrender at that time, and I didn't know the strength of addiction and the things that I needed to change in my life to be able to overcome it. That there were also steps along with the relationship with Christ that I had to take in order to succeed. And so when I came home, even though I had that excitement, same thing, I went right back to the things that I knew. I stayed sober that first time for 1.5 years. I did do pretty good. But it was as soon as life's, hardships came and started whipping me up and down, I went right back to that hard life, those drugs, those things that I knew that I was comfortable with, because I didn't know how to struggle and trust Christ through the struggle without reverting back to what I thought I needed to get through. And so shortly after that, shortly after that, I found myself incarcerated all over again my second incarceration, which is where I met you for the first time.
Wow.
So,
I remember meeting you, and I just thought, Tiffany is such a light. Like, no matter, every time I saw you, no matter what day it was or what we were going through and what you had already been through, I didn't know any of that when I met you, but you've always just been such a light to me every time I see
Thank you.
When you came home, Carrie mentioned a story about someone that he was in prison with last episode who had been to prison multiple times, who knew what was waiting for him when he got out. When you were getting out that first time, what did you think was waiting for you, and what was the reality?
That first time, I really thought that it was going to be different. Like, I really did. I really thought that something was going to be different. I had hope for change. And there was also things that changed, different dynamics within my family relationships that changed as well. Like, my mom was sober for the first time, and I couldn't tell you how long. So that also instilled hope in me, thinking that, okay, well, there's also different things going on at home that I've never experienced. So these differences in my life are going to be what causes the major change in my life. But it wasn't that. The second time, though, whenever I come home, like, I knew that it wasn't, I knew I wasn't ready. During that second incarceration, and I can even refer back to my talks with you. I remember walking around the gym talking to you about God. You know what I mean? Other women in there that I would just talk to constantly about God, and I was constantly trying to build them up. But at the same time, even though I was telling people, hey, you need a relationship with Christ, I still wasn't ready to fully surrender myself. I knew that when I come home, I wasn't going to be sober. I knew all the way to the point that I signed away the rights to my children during that incarceration, because I knew that I was not going to be sober when I came home. And sure enough, the first day that I walked out those prison gates, I was right back on the streets getting high. And that's sad, but like I said, the first time I had hope, the second time, there was no hope. I knew better. I was like, I'm going home to get high. This is what I'm going to do. This is all I know.
Wow. So when you think about hope, I'm going to just ask you this because we've talked about it a lot. And, when you think about hope, what does that mean to you? Like, what does hope look like for Tiffany, or what did it look like then? And how did that translate into you coming home?
Then, I guess you're referring to like that first release when I had hope. Then the hope was me believing in myself, honestly, thinking that I could do it, that I was strong enough, that addiction could not overpower me. Drugs were not gonna, be my leader. They were not going to be what defied who I was. Now, though, my hope is in Christ, and it's not in what I can do. It's in what He can do. It's in what He has done on the cross for me.
It's okay. Take your time.
I was not supposed to cry.
That's okay.
If it wasn't for Him, I wouldn't be able to sit here right now. So. And it's not just Him, it's what He's laid on the hearts of His people to do for people like me. Like Jumpstart. If it wasn't for Him laying it on the hearts of the people who found Jumpstart, I wouldn't be here today either, because I would have had nowhere to go. And if I wouldn't have had nowhere to go, I would have went right back to what I knew, So, but that's where my hope is now. That's what hope is for me now. It's Christ.
Wow. Tiffany, you're going to make me start crying.
I'm like, is my makeup running?
No, it looks perfect.
Should have known better.
Well, gosh. I was thinking you said the second time, but then the third time you went back because you knew you were going to get high. You knew you weren't ready.
Oh, yeah.
And you went back that third time. You took Jumpstart on the inside.
Yes.
That was your first time taking Jumpstart?
Yes. The second incarceration was the first time I had heard about Jumpstart. And I don't know if they just weren't fully established at that time, or if I just wasn't listening enough to hear what they really offered. But all I remember hearing about Jumpstart at that time is that they offered that they had a housing opportunity, but that they also offered clothing and like hygiene items for people to help when they got out. So I remember hearing that about them. But the third time, I was sitting in the county, and it had to have been the Lord because I don't know where it came from. But I was laying in my bunk, and like I said, even though I was living completely wrong, I still knew the truth, and I still talked to God a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was laying in my bunk, and I was praying to God, and I was, just asking for direction. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know how to change. I don't know nothing, And it was like almost an audible thing, like Jumpstart, And I was like, what is Jumpstart? I couldn't even remember, and I had to really think on it for a while before I remembered that I had heard that name during my second incarceration. And I got to talking to some ladies who were in the county with me that had been incarcerated before, and asking them what it was. And there was actually a lady there who had been through the Jumpstart program when it was in the little trailer park, and she was telling me about it. And so I knew then that I was supposed to go to Jumpstart. However, I still wasn't fully like on the submission end of things. I was like, I know that's what you want me to do, but I'm not sure if I'm really ready to listen to you yet. I wasn't fully in obedience to Christ yet. And then I was sitting in receiving, and I had wrote my daughter a letter. She was 9 at the time, and I had wrote her a letter, and I was apologizing to her for being incarcerated again. And her response back to me was, "It's okay, Mama, I'm just used to it." And that hit me so hard, because no 9-year-old should be used to their mom being incarcerated. And my son, who was older than her, it made me think about him too. And I was like, if this is her expressions, I can imagine what his expressions are, like what he's really feeling. And that hit me so hard right here that I finally surrendered. And I said, you know what, God? If I can't do it for me, help me do it for them.
Yeah.
Because addiction is a generational curse, and I don't want that on them. So that's when I really fully surrendered to Christ and gave everything to Him. And as soon as I hit the yard, I started asking, when's Jumpstart going to have their program? It was still through COVID, though, and they weren't offering anything yet. And you could still apply for housing, but there was, you had to wait until I think it was like 3 months or something before you were getting ready to go home. And I had to serve 3 years on my 7-year sentence. So, and then I was in my last year at Leith, and they finally had a program come through, and I signed up. I graduated the program and was able to complete the leadership program and came home the next month. So I barely made it, but that was God. That was God working all that out. And I came home to the Jumpstart program, and they've been so amazing as far as, they give you housing. And whenever I come home, like, I didn't even have to worry about groceries or transportation or anything like that. Like, everything was just completely taken care of until I started working. And then the difference between Jumpstart and most of the other programs, which is one reason why I would never allow myself to go to any of the other programs, is because you don't rack up a bill at Jumpstart. All the other programs, your rent starts from the day you get there. And when you start working, you're in debt. And for somebody trying to rebuild their life, starting out in debt when you probably already got other debts anyway,
right?
That's not going to help break the back of recidivism. It's just not. Jumpstart allowing that, though, like making a way for you to not have to be in debt, to know that everything is taken care of until you can start affording to take care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that like gives you hope in being able to do those things. And then once you do start working, you know, they still provide you with transportation and help make sure that you're getting back and forth to work and things like that. Like that is just things that, you know, the Lord blesses Jumpstart with the ability to do for its participants, that makes what Jumpstart does a possibility. You know, we need that.
Yeah,
We need that help.
absolutely. Yeah, I think about how when I came home, I didn't go to Jumpstart. I did Jumpstart on the inside, but I didn't go to Jumpstart, the Jumpstart program. And I think back to Carrie's story that he mentioned about all of the things that John needed to get his ID, to get his Social Security, all these things that you need. But there's one aspect that I don't think that I fully understood until I started working with Jumpstart, which was there were people who I knew in prison, like you, or other people that had been there or been through the program that had been out less time than me and were more ahead than I was. And I couldn't see I couldn't see it, but it was all of the people that were there supporting the volunteers,
Community.
the community,
Mm-hmm.
we say it takes a village. We're at Restoration Village, and you know, the donors who make it possible so that you don't have to go in debt when you get out, because that is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And but then like the participants that you're with, the alumni that you get to like be inspired by, like you, like I'm inspired by you right now.
Thank
But like just knowing that it's a community of people who are going through the same thing, who have been through the same thing, who are following the Lord, chasing after Him day by day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what makes a huge difference, is that we're all working towards the same thing. And we all want the same thing.
Yeah.
Living daily surrendered to Christ. That's one of our
Yeah.
keys to success, you
Yeah.
know? And I think when we have that, we don't need anything else,
Right.
you know?
And it's so important, like what you were saying, you know, the community and having people that are striving for the same goals as you surrounding you, because when you feel like you're alone, you know, feeling isolated is very, very, I can't think of the eloquent way to say it, but it's bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad for like mental and emotional health. And if you're somebody who is coming through like addiction per se, that can be something that can push you right back into your old addictive behavior, is feeling alone. You know what I mean? That can cause your depression and things like that to take root again. So being surrounded by a community of people who you don't have to doubt their love. You don't have to doubt their loyalty. You don't have to doubt that if you need somebody at 3 a.m., you can pick up the phone and you got somebody to call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that speaks volumes, you know, to the people in the program that need it, you know. That's one thing whenever I first come home and I would give my testimony. I don't know if y'all still do it or not, but when I first come home, they had a monthly meeting for the board members or whatever, and every once in a while they would bring in one of the participants to give their testimony, and I was one of those participants, and that was one of the things that I was constantly talking about was community, because I come from a background of gang affiliations. When I first started in on the streets, you know, I picked up gang affiliations, and it was because I was looking for community. You know, I was looking for people that were in the same struggle as me, that understood me, to make me not feel so alone. And I went the wrong way with it, obviously, because none of that was real. None of them were really there for me when I ended up in prison. But then coming to Jumpstart, like I found that on the level that I was looking for that on. You know what I mean? Like the true love, the true loyalty, people that really, like they'll hit their knees and pray for you, you know. So that was a big thing for me, was the community.
Wow.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I needed it. And every day I think I get that feeling that I need, of being surrounded by people who know exactly what you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany, tell us about where you are now. Like, you were home. You've been home for how long now?
May will be 2 years.
2 years in May. You completed the Jumpstart program. You just graduated
Yep.
last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, March.
Yep.
March 12th.
And I just want everybody to hear how far you've come.
Well, when I came home in May of 2024, shortly after that, I met my husband at Jumpstart. He works for the landscaping crew. And we got married November 2024. And Jumpstart blessed us with allowing us to be the first married couple that they provided a home for in the program. So that was pretty amazing. God opens doors.
Yes.
And then within a year after that, we bought our first home. So, and we bought a car right after that, and then we bought a home. So in less than 2 years, I've gotten married, bought a car, and bought a home.
Wow.
And that's just the material aspects of it. That's not, like my relationships with my children are being restored more and more every day. And I'm just so, so grateful for that. I was so scared that, especially with my son, he's about to graduate high school, so he's almost a grown man, and it's, I was scared that he was going to reach maturity before forgiving me. But so that's amazing. And other relationships are being restored. And then, and God is using me in other ways. At work, I'm given the ability to talk to my coworkers about the Lord, this ability to be able to sit here and just share my testimony. He is definitely moving in an incredible way in our lives. And nothing that we have done could have ever been accomplished without him. So
Absolutely.
There's a promise, and it's the promise that I held on to in my incarceration, but it's in Joel 2:25, and he says that he will restore all the things the years of the locust ate. And for me, my incarceration, my years of addiction and incarceration, those were the years of my locust, and it ate everything from me. It ate everything material I had, because when I come home, I didn't have nothing. All my relationships with family, friends, children, everything, I had nothing when I come home. And that promise stands true today, because he has given everything back to me and in abundance. I've never been a homeowner before. I had a trailer, but I didn't own it. You know what I mean? It wasn't a house. It was a trailer, So his word is just, it's amazing. His promises there are so true if you just put your faith in them and stand on them,
Yeah. Tiffany, I think I want to hear from you, and I think the listeners would want to hear from you what grace has done for you and what it's looked like to restore your life, and for people who may be in a prison, or, literally in a prison, or in a prison in their own way, what hope can look like for them, and how grace restored your life.
This another one's gonna make me cry. Grace is what saved me, Like I said a minute ago, I have previous gang affiliations, and with that comes a lot of things that I've done that I have no right to even sit here alive today for. You know what I mean? Things that used to, before I found grace, they used to plague me at night, like nightmares from them. I used to feel such shame, such guilt. Just feelings of worthlessness, grace wiped all that away. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be washed white as snow, Grace is what Christ did on the cross, like I said a minute ago. And everything I ever did, he took the consequence for me. And I don't have to feel that shame anymore. Or that guilt. I don't have to feel like I'm worthless for anything that I've ever done, because that's not the truth. The truth is, I'm forgiven and I'm free. And if there would be anybody watching this that would feel feelings of shame or guilt for anything that they've ever done, just give it to Christ. Because grace is what will set you free, And it's a real thing. I used to think, growing up, I grew up in church, and growing up as a child, I would hear people talk about, grace, kind of, how Christ died for our sins and things. And sometimes it's hard to compute that into reality until you really experience it for yourself. And after really experiencing it for myself, like, I can testify to the truth of it. What does our shirt say? Grace built grit.
Yep, that's right.
And that's so true, If it wasn't for the grace that he's given me, I wouldn't be strong enough today to be able to push forward through the things that come my way, So, yeah, grace.
Wow.
I'm going to get you later for making me cry.
Off camera.
Yeah.
Tiffany, thank you so much for coming and for sharing that powerful story. I mean, I've heard it before, and I'll never get tired of hearing that story for what God did in your life and how he gave you an abundance of grace so that you can be truly white as snow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.